Here's something that might shock you. Those stiff, aching hips you wake up with every morning, they're not just part of getting older. And that sharp pain when you stand up from your favorite chair, or that difficulty bending down to tie your shoes, none of it is something you just have to live with. Yet millions of women over 60 believe that's their only option. They've accepted hip stiffness as their new normal. But what if I told you that 4 simple stretches, done right, could give you back the freedom of movement you thought was gone forever? In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to relieve hip pain and restore your mobility using gentle movements that work with your body, not against it. You'll discover why everything you've been told about staying flexible after 60 is probably wrong, and I'll share the exact sequence that helped Margaret, a 73-year-old grandmother, get back to her garden without wincing every time she knelt down. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do starting today. Let me tell you about Patricia. She's 67, a retired teacher from Ohio, and until about 2 years ago, she was one of the most active people in her neighborhood. She took daily walks, volunteered at the community center, loved spending Saturday mornings at the farmer's market. But slowly, almost without her noticing at first, her hips started betraying her. It began with a little stiffness in the morning. She'd swing her legs out of bed and feel that tightness, that resistance. She'd walk it off, shake it out, and get on with her day. But then it started lasting longer. The stiffness didn't disappear after a few minutes anymore. It lingered through breakfast, through her morning routine. Then came the pain. A sharp catch when she'd stand up from sitting. A dull ache when she'd been on her feet too long. Bending over to pick up something she'd dropped became a calculated decision, not an automatic movement. Patricia stopped going to the farmer's market because walking on the concrete for an hour left her hobbling. She gave up her volunteer work because sitting in those hard chairs made her hips scream. She even started avoiding her grandchildren's visits because getting down on the floor to play with them, then getting back up, was just too embarrassing and too painful. She told me she felt like her body was becoming a prison, and the worst part was everyone kept telling her it was just her age, just something she had to accept. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Maybe you've felt that same stiffness when you first wake up, like your hips have rusted overnight. Maybe you know exactly what I mean when I talk about that moment of hesitation before you stand up, bracing yourself for the discomfort you know is coming. Or perhaps you've modified your entire life around your hips. You've stopped gardening because kneeling is too hard. You've given up dancing because your hips just won't move the way they used to. You avoid certain chairs, certain activities, certain situations, all because you can't trust your hips anymore. And here's what makes it even worse. The stiffness creates a vicious cycle. Your hips hurt, so you move less. You move less, so they get stiffer. They get stiffer, so they hurt more. Before you know it, you're trapped in this downward spiral, watching your world get smaller and smaller. Simple pleasures like putting on your shoes without sitting down, stepping into the bathtub confidently, or walking through a parking lot without that telltale hip pain shuffle, they all become challenges instead of just normal parts of life. And in just a moment, I'll show you exactly why most people never fix this, why the conventional advice actually makes things worse. But first, you need to understand what's really happening. Now, let's talk about what most people get completely wrong about hip stiffness after 60. The biggest myth out there is that your hips are stiff because you need to stretch them more aggressively. So what do people do? They push through pain. They force their bodies into uncomfortable positions. They think if it doesn't hurt, it's not working. And they end up making everything worse. Here's the truth. Your hip joints are surrounded by some of the largest, most powerful muscles in your body. After 60, these muscles don't need aggressive stretching. They need gentle, consistent mobilization. There's a massive difference. When you force a stretch, your muscles actually tighten up as a protective response. Your body thinks it's under attack, so it guards itself. But when you use gentle, controlled movements that work with your body's natural range of motion, your muscles relax, your joints lubricate themselves, and your flexibility actually increases. The second thing people get wrong is thinking that hip problems are just about the hips. Your hip mobility is directly connected to your lower back, your knees, even your ankles. When your hips don't move properly, your body compensates. Your knees take extra stress. Your lower back twists in ways it shouldn't. Your whole kinetic chain gets thrown off. That's why so many women over 60 don't just have hip pain, they have knee problems and back problems too. It's all connected. So what actually works? Let me break this down into what I call the 4 pillars of hip freedom. These are the exact movements that have helped hundreds of women reclaim their mobility, and they're simpler than you might think. The first pillar is hip flexor release. Your hip flexors are the muscles at the front of your hips, and after years of sitting, driving, even just the way we naturally stand as we age, these muscles get chronically tight. When your hip flexors are tight, they literally pull your pelvis forward, which creates that stiff, uncomfortable feeling and makes it hard to stand up straight or walk smoothly. The gentle movement for this is a modified kneeling hip flexor stretch. You don't need to get all the way down on the floor. You can use a chair or the edge of your bed. The key is a very gentle forward lean that creates a stretch sensation in the front of your hip, held for 20 to 30 seconds, never forced, always breathing deeply. The second pillar is hip rotator mobility. These are the smaller muscles deep in your hip joint that control rotation, and they're crucial for every movement you make. When these muscles get tight or weak, you lose the ability to move fluidly. You develop that stiff-legged walk. You can't pivot or turn without moving your whole body. The movement that unlocks these is the seated figure 4 stretch. Sitting in a sturdy chair, you place one ankle across the opposite knee, creating a number 4 shape with your legs, then gently lean forward from your hips. This targets those deep rotator muscles in a safe, controlled way. Most women feel the difference immediately. The third pillar is hip extension recovery. This is your ability to move your leg backward behind your body, and it's essential for normal walking, climbing stairs, everything. But most of us over 60 have lost significant hip extension because we spend so much time with our hips flexed, sitting or leaning forward. The gentle movement here is a standing hip extension using a countertop for balance. You simply extend one leg straight back behind you, squeezing your glute muscle, holding for a few seconds, and releasing. It's subtle, it's controlled, and it retrains your hip to move through its full range again. The fourth pillar is hip abductor strength and flexibility. These are the muscles on the outside of your hips, and they're critical for balance and stability. When these muscles are weak or tight, you're at much higher risk for falls, and you lose that confident, stable feeling when you walk. The movement is a standing leg lift to the side, again using support for balance, lifting your leg out to the side just 6 to 8 inches, controlled and steady. Quick note, if you want all of this laid out for you step by step, I put together a complete guide called The Hip Freedom Solution for Women Over 60. Everything you need in one place. Check the pinned comment below and grab it. Now let me tell you about Diane. She's 71, from Minnesota, and she came to these movements after years of struggling with hip pain that her doctor kept telling her was just arthritis. She'd tried physical therapy, she'd tried pain medication, she'd tried just about everything. When she started with these 4 gentle stretches, she was skeptical. They seemed too simple, too easy, but she committed to doing them every single day. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Within 2 weeks, she noticed she wasn't groaning when she stood up from her couch anymore. Within a month, she was walking her dog again without that hip ache cutting the walk short. Within 3 months, she was back in her ballroom dancing class, something she'd given up 2 years earlier. She told me it felt like she'd been given a second chance at the life she loved, and the exercises that got her there? The same 4 pillars I just shared with you. Here's what makes these movements so effective. They address both flexibility and strength at the same time. You're not just passively stretching, you're actively engaging your muscles, teaching them to support your joints properly. And because they're gentle, you can do them every single day without risk of injury or overtraining. Consistency beats intensity every single time, especially after 60. So how do you actually apply this starting today? Let me give you a clear, actionable plan. Step 1. Start with just one movement. Don't try to do all 4 perfectly right away. Pick the one that addresses your biggest pain point. If you struggle most with getting up from chairs, start with the hip flexor release. If walking feels stiff, begin with the hip rotator mobility work. Master one movement first, make it a habit, then add the others. I know what you're thinking. What if I do it wrong and hurt myself? Here's the truth. These movements are so gentle and controlled that it's actually very hard to injure yourself if you follow one simple rule. Never push into sharp pain. You should feel a comfortable stretch, a gentle pull, maybe a little muscle fatigue, but never sharp stabbing pain. If you feel that, you've gone too far. Back off, reduce the range of motion, and build up gradually. Your body will tell you what it needs if you listen to it. Step 2. Create a consistent routine. The magic happens with daily practice, not occasional effort. Pick a specific time and place. For most women, first thing in the morning works best because it loosens up that overnight stiffness and sets you up for a better day. 5 minutes is all you need to start. You can do these movements in your bedroom, in your living room, anywhere you have a sturdy chair and a little space. The fear here is usually time. You're thinking you're already busy, you can't add one more thing. But here's what I want you to consider. How much time are you currently spending managing your hip pain? The slow, careful way you move. The planning around activities you used to do easily. The recovery time after you've pushed yourself too hard. Those 4 gentle stretches will give you time back, not take it away. Step 3. Track your progress in a simple way. You don't need fancy apps or complicated journals. Just notice one thing each day. Can you bend a little farther? Does standing up feel a little easier? Can you walk a little longer without discomfort? These small wins compound into life-changing results. Step 4. Combine movement with proper support throughout your day. When you're sitting, make sure your hips are level with or slightly higher than your knees. When you're standing, distribute your weight evenly. When you're walking, focus on taking full strides, not the shortened protective steps that hip pain creates. You're retraining your body's movement patterns, and that happens all day long, not just during your 5-minute routine. Step 5. Give it time, but expect to feel something quickly. Most women notice a difference in how they feel within the first week. Real, measurable improvements in flexibility and pain reduction usually show up within 3 to 4 weeks. Significant life changes, getting back to activities you've given up, typically happen within 2 to 3 months of consistent daily practice. Let me tell you quickly about Ruth. She's 68, started these movements 3 months ago. She just sent me a message last week telling me she played 9 holes of golf for the first time in 2 years. No hip pain, no stiffness the next day, just pure enjoyment of something she thought she'd lost forever. Now, I want you to imagine 2 different futures for yourself. In the first future, you close this video, you go back to your day, and nothing changes. 6 months from now, your hips are a little stiffer. The pain is a little sharper. You've given up 1 or 2 more activities that used to bring you joy. You've accepted that this is just what 60 plus looks like. Your world continues to shrink, one small compromise at a time. In the second future, you take what you've learned here and you actually use it. You start today, right now, with just one gentle movement. You commit to 5 minutes a day, and over the next few weeks and months, you watch your body respond. You feel that morning stiffness ease. You notice you can bend down without bracing yourself. You take a walk that doesn't end in discomfort. You play with your grandchildren on the floor without worrying about how you'll get back up. You return to your garden, your dancing, your life. You remember what it feels like to move with confidence and freedom. The difference between these 2 futures is a choice you make right now. And here's what I know about you. You wouldn't have watched this far if you were ready to give up. You're here because some part of you knows that you deserve better. You deserve to move without pain. You deserve to live fully, not just carefully. Everything I just shared and more is waiting for you right now in the pinned comment below. Click it. Get the complete guide. Because your hips don't have to define what you can and cannot do with the rest of your life. Don't wait. You have more good years ahead of you than you realize, and you deserve to spend them doing the things you love, with the people you love, in a body that supports you instead of holding you back. Start today. Your future self will thank you.